Welcome back to Mil Spouse Moguls with Military Spouse. I am your host, Moni Jefferson, and today I am fangirling like so hard today because I found this military spouse online and I have just been like binging on all her content, everything she does, and I'm just really excited that we're able to make this happen. Everybody, welcome Cece Meadows to our podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited. So I stumbled upon you. I don't know how. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I love you know what it was? It was the video of your husband doing your makeup. And I was like, is this a joke? And because I was like, is somebody playing around? And then I was like, oh my gosh, it's a real military spouse who has a makeup line. And I just went on this whole deep dive about you. So I'm excited to share you and your business and your inspiration with our community because I feel like we don't hear enough. We do hear a lot of these stories, which is why we're doing this series. But to hear your story, especially of it being makeup and being in stores, like people are going to want to know the details. So welcome. Tell us a little bit about how your story started as a military spouse.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So I pretty much still consider myself like a new Army wife. Daniel and I met in 2015. He was going to the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California, and I was working for a nonprofit. I had just sold my farmer's insurance agency, and I was just kind of at this like place in my life. I was a single mom, and I was just kind of in this place in my life where I was just like, you know, what am I going to do? Like, what is the bigger purpose of like me in this world? You know, I was trying to like figure that out for probably about a year. And I met Daniel while he was going to MPS, and you know, you meet a person and you just fall in love with them like you, and so hard. I had never like felt like that about anyone. And then he's like, yeah, I'm only going to be here for 2 years. And I was like, well, where are you going? And he's like, I'm going to go teach at West Point for 3 years after this. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, you know, just trying to play like nonchalant. But I mean, I feel like when you meet somebody and you're all in on this person because they're just like so incredible. To me, it felt like I would follow him anywhere. And that is like what we do as Army wives, right? Like, but for me, I was still always very career driven. I've always had like an office and, you know, employees that I help, you know, not just, you know, manage, but also help them like in their career. So I always felt like it was just like a very community based type individual. And when we went to, you know, we got married and we went to West Point, I was very shocked at the lack of opportunities for Army wives. And I actually just went into this horrible depression because I wanted to work. I wanted to be an Army wife and be a mom and have a career. And I applied to all of the positions that were there and probably overqualified for a lot of them, but it was just, there was no opportunity for me there. And it was really saddening because I made great friends with my fellow West Point wives, you know, and Gray Ghost, shout out to Gray Ghost. And they were like chemists, biologists, teachers, like all of these amazing things that they had done with their lives. And it's just kind of like, we were just all there trying to figure out like what to do with ourselves. And I think that that's a common story as, you know, being an Army wife, that we follow these men that we love and we have our own lives and our own things that we, you know, do and that we love, but there's just a lack of opportunity. So I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to have to create my own opportunity. And that's exactly what I did.
And yes, like you said, the story resonates probably with so many of our listeners. It resonates with me. You know, we do sacrifice so much of who we are and our desires out of life and career and personal things to help and support them because they move all around the world, right? So yeah, your story, everybody listening to this is like, girl, come on through. Yes, been that. Oh, I did that too. Like everybody listening to this because I mean, it is so true. And something that you touched on, and thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing that, it brought up a depressive state for you for a little bit, because I know a lot of times we don't even have those conversations, right? We're just like, oh, we like it here. Tell me a little bit about how you got out of that before we dive into to Prados Beauty.
I'll be honest, like I started going to therapy. Like that was one of the very first things that was recommended to me by my spouse. My spouse was just, you have this certain, who you are. And I've always just been like really happy and bubbly and just like in community. I've always, done volunteered in my communities, like wherever was happening, whatever was going on. I always just immersed myself in community. I come from a long line of, family members who are just of service. Like that's what we do. Our family is just based on service, like in our community, in our schools, whatever. But I know that he saw this shift in my personality. I was a new Army wife. I was a new, we had a baby together, and he just really saw that I was not happy, like with myself, because I felt so disconnected from the core of who I am. And so he was like, how do I get, what can I do to help you? What can I do to support? Like, this is where we're going to be for, at this time it was like two more years, and I was just like, cause I was going through that, like for the whole first year, trying to make friends, trying to, find commonalities with other Army wives, figuring out all the rules, like, the Army wives, you can't hang out with these or that. And it's just like, that's not me. Like, I'm not in the service like you are.
Yeah, right there.
So it was just me trying to find my way as being an Army wife. And so he said to me one evening when I was just really, really sad. Also, too, I got a vitamin D deficiency. I'm Xicana and Indigenous. My people are from like the Southwest. We have sun all the time. We moved to New York. It's cloudy. There's the sun shines differently there. So with the vitamin D deficiency and then feeling all of this life shift, I was just really sad. And one day, probably had a little bit of postpartum. And if you don't have support in that, like you can lose yourself very easily. And he was like, how can I support you? What can I do? And I was like, I need to figure out how do I adjust to this life? Cause you still have 7 more years of this.
Yeah.
How do I adjust to this life? But I don't just want to adjust in it. I want to thrive in it, and I want to be happy in it. Like, I love you. I love our life together. I'm just having a hard time, like, building a new construct of what our life together looks like. So he was like, have you ever thought about doing therapy? And I was like, we don't do that.
No, I was going to say,
culturally, we do not do that. You do not go to therapy. You're not depressed. There's no postpartum. There's nothing like that. It's just like, you don't have time for any of that. You get up, you take care of your husband, your kids, and you just like, all day long, you just grind. So I started going to therapy. I tell you what, my whole life perspective and how I process and how I do things changed like 1,000,000%. And I tell people all the time, I feel like therapy is a lifelong gift that you can give to yourself. And whether you're not seeing like a professional, but you're even just being in community with your friends and being able to have those like tough conversations where you're honest with one another, those are the types of relationships and conversations that are going to carry you a lifetime, and not just in friendship, but in community and being, a whole self and figuring out that you're not the only one. And that was very, very powerful for me.
Yeah. Wow. You dropped so many great things in everything you just said. I'm serious. Like, we don't ask for help. We don't go to therapy. The fact that your husband suggested it, that is such a great support system. Like just that right there to see like, hey, this is military life, just get used to it. It was like, how can we help you? How can we help you adjust? And I love that he was a part of that process.
Yeah, I think one of the initial things that attracted me so much to my husband is that even though he is in the military, he wasn't militant at all. And that was like the personality. Like, I really feel like, also I think him being in command really helped him. Like, he's like, it was the worst, like most stressful time of my life, but I think it made him very conscious of like the human experience and the different things that humans go through. And so for him to be able to approach me in such a way of like, I think you need to go to therapy. Like, that wasn't that conversation. It was, how can I support you? How can I love you? How can I be there? How can I help you? And then he's like, have you ever thought about this? And I'm like, I actually have not. Like, so being able to have that conversation with him in such a, bonding way also, because at that time we're still newlyweds, and so I think that is, even to this day, Daniel is, even though he's a full-time officer and, he's stationed at Fort Bliss, he's also, the CFO of my company. And so just to be able to work together and to have his support, even when I'm the one that's supporting him, I think it's very impactful.
Yes. I mean, you got to do it together. And a lot of times military spouses themselves lose themselves. And because of the busyness of our military member, it is not something that's talked about or that's identified. And so I think it's really great. And I think for anybody listening today, if you find yourself feeling any of this, reach out and ask for help and get therapy. There's nothing wrong with that. There's so many great resources too for therapy and just to get through it. Everybody needs somebody to talk to. Everybody. It's this really great maintenance. Yeah. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. Some people really don't like to talk about those things, but I think that you inspire others. When you have a conversation like that, it inspires other people to have those conversations and encourages them to seek help or to identify that maybe that's something that they're going through. So thank you for sharing that. So let's jump into Prados Beauty. I am really excited about this. I want to learn more. I want our audience to learn more about your product. So tell me a little bit about your product, what it is, and how it came about.
Yeah, so I'm actually a cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer at 26 and almost 27. And I just had this very pivotal, having cancer is not easy, but I was really lucky because they caught it very, very early. I've always had like women issues, and my oncologist and my gynecologist together were just like, thank you for making our job easy, because when something doesn't feel right, like you come in and I think that was such a pivotal time in my life, because as a Xicana and Indigenous woman, like we carry so much power, like in our hair, culturally, like your hair is very, very important, in our culture. And to not have that, and try to figure out who you are as a person without, what your culture has built around what the definition of beauty is, was something that was very like eye-opening for me. And I had to do some work like to figure out what that was. And so after I went into remission, my eyebrows didn't grow back the same. My eyelashes didn't grow back the same. My hair did not grow back the same. Like it was a lot, different. And so I thought to myself, you know what, if I could live the rest of my life helping people look and feel beautiful when you feel like, your world is just crashing around you, and, just to put it bluntly, like you feel and you look like shit. Like, how do I, what can I do to help the next person not feel like that? Because cancer doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care where you come from. It doesn't even care about your age. It will touch anybody and everybody. But one of the things that my oncologist like really, really drove during my treatment was happiness.
Mm.
and positivity. And he was like, we find that cancer patients who are happy and joyous have higher rates of, going into remission. And for me, I was like, I'm going to do everything to be happy.
Why
And
not?
yeah, I was just, I didn't wear a lot of makeup before Prados, but I had some really good friends, and I still have, still my good friends. Now they're like head trainers for Mac and Morphe, and they run, the art departments for a lot of these big companies, but they were my friends, and they were at the Mac counter, and they taught me how to do makeup. And one of the things that I remembered is their brushes and the lashes, how it felt on my skin. It hurt so bad. A lot of people don't know that when you're going through chemo, your skin and the follicles in your head are so agitated that a brush could actually bruise and scratch your face very gently. So I thought, you know what? I need to create something that's for this community. And I started going to cosmetology school and just kind of dove into the aesthetics part. And then I started just doodling kind of like concept ideas of brushes and the types of hair that needed to be in them. And when Daniel and I got married and we moved to New York and I couldn't figure out what I was going to do, like I started putting those concepts and those, designs to work. I went to a show in Manhattan called the Makeup Show, and that's where you find like all the manufacturers that make brushes and eyelashes and cosmetics. And it all started there. I was a makeup artist. I started doing makeup professionally in 2013. And like our second year at West Point, I started going into the city and doing, makeup at New York Fashion Week and on sets and doing makeup at events and doing makeup at West Point for the cadets, for all of their big balls and for the Army wives. And so I was just getting a lot of hands-on training on, different types of skin colors, texture. And I just thought, you know what, if there was ever a chance for me to start my own thing, it would be here. I'm like in the hub. And that's pretty much where I started. I started my baby girl's nursery.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So tell us the reason. Oh, so two things. So first, explain to our audience what a Xicana Indigenous woman is. Explain that to us.
So a Xicana is a person, or a Chicano is a person whose parent is an indigenous person from Mexico. So they are born. My father was born in Mexico. He's Yoeme, which is Yaqui. He's an indigenous, person who is a part of a community in Sonora, Mexico. So that's what a Chicana is. And an indigenous person is just someone who is indigenous to this land, whether it be in Mexico or it be in what is now the U.S. So to identify as that, I take so much pride in it because you don't have that kind of representation in the beauty world.
Yes.
In the last couple of years, you have, my friends like Quana Chasing Horse, who's like on, walking runways and opening and closing shows, and Philip Red, who's like a Comanche model, and he's opening and closing shows. Like, you're finally just starting to see like Native representation, indigenous representation in the beauty world. And when I was at New York Fashion Week, and doing makeup backstage, there wasn't at all. It was either, you had beautiful, like very porcelain colored skin, or you had the very dark Sudanese skin. Beautiful, gorgeous women, but it was very rare for you to see like an authentic indigenous Native American person. And so when I started Prados, we were actually the very first like Xicana Indigenous owned beauty brand to key a show and sponsor or do makeup for a show at New York Fashion Week. And I was like, how can we be the first? Like,
yeah,
the definition of beauty has been around for hundreds of years. Like, it was just mind-boggling to me, but that's what we do around here.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think it's so important to understand the why behind the name. So why Prados? What does that mean? What inspired you to name it that?
Yeah, so Prados is just my name in Spanish. So Meadows in Spanish is Prados. And so Daniel and I were going, he would be my sounding board, and I'd go back and forth, like, should I do this? Should I name it this? And, I was just like at my wits' end. I had like 2 days before I had to hit the send button on my trademark and copyright application. And I was still like, just trying to figure out what could I do. And then my baby was crawling on the floor, and she kind of looked up at me, and I said, what is my why? There's always a why in what you do. And I was looking at her, and she's like my copy and paste twin, and I was looking at her, and I was like, I started this because I wanted my girls to grow up and see themselves represented in this like industry. I wanted them to walk into a store or walk into like any type of event and be included. The conversation about inclusivity is it's a whole other conversation, but allyship through community and through cosmetics and in the beauty world, it is made it a much better experience because of those conversations. So I pretty much just looked at her and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna name it Prados because this is for her. And I want just to have that representation of being Xicana and Indigenous. And it's an easy word, anyone can say it. My husband's from Alabama, and he's got the twang and the accent. If he can say Prados, anybody can say Prados. So it just kind of has this very easy roll off the tongue, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful word in Spanish. And so when people say it, they're not just saying something in Spanish, but they're also saying a beautiful word, and that's impactful.
Wow, I really love that. And everybody that we have had on this series has had a purpose as to why they started, and I love hearing the stories behind it. And I feel like the stories behind the brands are so much more powerful than it. It really drives people to wanting to be a part of that journey and that mission.
Right.
So, I really love your brand. I think it's so vibrant and colorful and community driven. You can tell that it's like a place of welcoming, and you want people to feel a sense of belonging. So one of the things that I noticed when I was looking through everything is it is very colorful and vibrant. Lots of color, lots of vibrancy going on. I mean, is that intentional? Do you tell me the story behind like putting the colors together and things like that?
Yeah, so I think in being a Yoeme woman, like our cultural, like from my father's side, like my grandmother, she's very colorful. Our regalia when we dance, whether if you're a powwow dancer or you're just a ceremony dancer, like they're very colorful. We take things from the earth, and that's how we would make color. So when you see the colorful dresses and all those things, those were handmade, like hand dyed with things that were around us, which are plants, and so when I created Prados, like, yes, the intention was that we were going to be a colorful, vibrant brand. We were going to take the Xicana Indigenous experience and even like the Mexican experience. If you go to Mexico and you go to like different parts like DF, Guanajuato, you go to these big places. And if you're ever there where there's just some kind of event happening, you see color all over the place. And it's so beautiful. And so I'm actually more of a like earthy toned, neutral type, person, but I love a pop of color. And so creating Prados was just so much fun. I just wanted to be a vibrant, colorful brand. I wanted people to step out of their comfort zone. I think that there's so much power in being uncomfortable and how you adjust to things and how you can look at yourself from a different perspective when you're uncomfortable, and not so uncomfortable that you're struggling, but just a little pop of color. When I was at West Point, I would do, a colorful look, and they'd be like, oh my goodness, like this is so beautiful, but can you tone it down? And it's like, I can, but what if I didn't? Like what if you just went with it, and then they'd wear it for a couple of hours, and you know, you'd have maybe 1 or 2 people come back and be like, no, it needs to be toned down. But at the end of the day, you'd be like, I'm so happy you made me do this. Like, I love color. I love working with color. And so that's pretty much kind of the story behind the color stories that we have. I also love the color purple. I love every shade of purple. I am so blessed. I was, you know, my godmother is a beautiful Black woman from Compton, and she loves the color purple. And one day I was having a hard time as a teen, and she said to me, you know what? I'm going to buy you something purple. And I was like, purple? Like, you know, that's what's the purple about? She's like, purple is the color of royalty, and you are in your, you know, beginning phases of going into what you will become, and you're a queen. And I was just like, how impactful of that, like, for someone to say something like that to someone who was at like this formative, you know, formative years in their lives. And so not, I just happen to love, you know, the purple that she bought for me, but every shade of purple is so beautiful. And so our branding is based around the purple color, and it's just so that, you know, people can buy purple things and be the queens and, you know, royalty that they are.
Yeah. Wow. That is a really, that is so sweet. I love that story. And these are the stories that we do not get to see all the time or learn about. We are following, you know, you follow people and you love what they're doing, want to support, but these are the stories that really make your community and your followers embrace what you're doing. But on this journey, I'm sure you've had some ebbs and flows, as with anything in life. But as a military spouse, there are, as you explained earlier, there are very different and unique challenges. Tell me one challenge maybe that you've had in building an Indigenous brand, forward trending brand, and something you've had to overcome as a military spouse.
Yeah, I would say that, you know, even being a Army spouse and living on post, you know, I started you had to, you know, when I first started, I had to do the home-based business application. And, you know, I was really good friends with the commander on post's wife at that time. I didn't even know she was the commander's, you know, like spouse. She was just someone I played volleyball with, and I just loved her. And she's like, you should do a home-based business. And I was like, okay, yeah, like maybe I will. And the red tape to do that was just absolutely like, it was a disaster. And at the end of the day, like, once I finally reached out to her for support, like, what do? I feel like I'm doing the wrong thing. And she's like, you don't even need that. Like, you sell online. And I was like, why are these, like, why is it so difficult? And she, you know, she just really explained to me that sometimes, you know, as horrible as it sounds, like, being in a bubble, like, sometimes people just don't want to see you do like bigger and better things. And that was just like, we're all here together. Like, we should help each other, you know? And so when I first launched Prados, I didn't have a big budget. I just saved my makeup money, jobs, and things like that. I wanted to do this on my own. I didn't want to take away from my family in any way at all. And my first photographer was Stephanie Scaparetti High from West Point. They're still there now. And she's the first product photographer that I had, and my first copywriter and person that I hired to do all the, you know, wording for my products was also a military spouse, and my web designer was a military spouse. So I really honed in on that support and community for the people that were already there. But that the vibe of sometimes them not wanting to see you do better, that was definitely something that I did not appreciate, and I've always been honest about. It's like, y'all don't need to do that. Like, we're all here together. We can support, love one another, shop from one another. Like, there's enough money and internet and the world out here for all of us to thrive. So that was one of the first challenges. And, you know, of course, it's always going to be funding. After I launched and had a PO for, you know, from JCPenney and Thirteenlune. It was a PO that was almost $1 million. I was holding this PO like, hey, I also need to get this product like into 610 stores by 2023. Like, here's the PO as my collateral. Nobody would take it. You know, so Daniel and I just had to bootstrap, you know, everything that we needed to make this launch happen. You know, and I think it was an eye-opening experience for him to see his wife as a woman of color walk into a boardroom full of, you know, potential investors, and them, you know, just kind of look at you like, how did you get here? And, you know, like, what's going to happen with my $500,000 if I give it to you? And it's like, well, I'm going to give it right back plus some. Like,
yeah,
I need you to get me over the hump. So, you know, for him to see from that perspective, because he's the finance guy and he did all the brand decking with the numbers and is showing you all of the things and projections for 10 years. He's an analysis and he's a whiz. His formulas are probably not wrong. Like, and to still get that no, we went into 17 different banks and meetings, investors, and every single one said no. And we just kind of sold the house that we had and put that into the business. And here we are, 2023, 610 JCPenney stores, online, you know, just thriving and coming out with collections and, you know, just kind of running the show and being independently and you know, not having to answer to anybody.
Yeah. I mean, what a powerful story. I mean, that is a huge hurdle. I mean, obviously funding is a huge hurdle for every military spouse. So number one thing that they say they haven't, you know, problems with when they start a business is having to bootstrap or find funding. So you just pivoted and decided, hey, if nobody else is going to invest in me, I'm going to invest in myself. And you guys did it. So that's just incredible. It's just so inspiring to any spouse listening. Like, this story just keeps getting better and better, guys. Right. And the hurdle that you overcame. And I always like to ask that question because there's always some barrier to doing what we want to do. And then on the other side of it, it's always like, this is how I did it. And it's showing other spouses who haven't started, who are scared of the unpredictable, to just go for it. You're going to figure it out. You'll figure it out along the way, you know? So that's really, really cool. And there's something to be said about spouses who continue to keep pushing through no matter what keeps happening. Have you had to move your business yet? Like, and how many times have you had to move it? Like, so most of our spouses are service-based. There is a small percentage that are product-based. How do you move your product-based business?
Yeah, so I started in, like I said, in New York, and I had everything in my house. I had all my product in my house. I was also like doing social media influencing, so I had, you know, my vanity, like a huge vanity. I would do makeup and all kinds of stuff on social media. So I had the biggest room in our house, next to our master bedroom. It was just stocked to the brim with product and all of my lighting and all of the things. And so I didn't put that on the moving truck. Daniel was like, you don't want any of this stuff.
No, you don't.
We're going to rent a trailer or buy a trailer, and we're going to haul it with us, you know. And the cosmetics that I had that needed to be in like cooler temperatures, I just sold it out, and you know, kind of just came with all the dry stuff that, you know, I could keep with me in my trailer and stuff like that. So we moved from New York to New Mexico, and when we got here, we built our home before we came from New York, and just kind of designated a room in the house for my office and for, you know, my products. But by the time we had gotten here, it was, you know, right in the middle of like the pandemic. It was, you know, June of 2020, and fortunately for online home-based businesses, you know, whether the world was shut down, but people were still buying, you know.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people buying, and that's when I pretty much blew up until I had to get like a warehouse, a small warehouse. I got my first 1,000 square foot
warehouse.
Yeah.
Moron.
I want my house back because it came from like my daughter's room to all the hall closets and, you know, the hallways in the living room. And he was like, we need our house back. Like, you need a warehouse. So I got my first warehouse. It was 1,000 square feet. It had 2 offices in the front and then 800 square feet of warehouse space. And I got a credit card from Amex. Amex is so good to military spouses.
Yes.
They're so good to military spouses, and they're so good to small businesses. I would recommend that you talk to an Amex representative. You apply for a business credit card, and they always call you. They want to know what you're doing. It's not really to investigate, like, you know, to find out why you're applying, but they want to know. They want to support.
Yeah.
And one of the first things I said to is, I'm a military spouse, and I have a cosmetics line that's growing. Like, why don't you hop on the computer while we're talking so you can look at it? You know, and they're just like, oh my gosh, like, this is beautiful. And it's like, you know, having that conversation with them just really opened up the door for them to approve us for, you know, now we have like an open line of credit with them. I think the most I've charged on my Amex is maybe $150,000. And that was when we moved here into our 3,000 square foot warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
We have 3 offices in here. I have 2 employees, and we have a new collection that's coming out October 6th, and we bootstrap everything. And so American Express has really helped me, you know, to do that. So the moves have not ever been easy, but, you know, Army wives, we are resilient. We're resilient women. We figure it out. And because we don't have a choice. Like, what are you going to do? You just sit down and just cry?
Right. I mean, you can for a few minutes, and then you just gotta get
pull yourself together. Like, just, you know, I have one of my very first Army wives who was my friend and is now my family. I absolutely love her. You know, I called her one day and I was just crying, and I was like, this is freaking hard. You know, not in those words. I was like, this is just effing hard. And I just don't, you know, and she's like, girl, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Just get it all out. Let's cry. And she's like, okay, now it's time to pull yourself together. Like, and that's what you do. You surround yourself with like-minded women who are just not going to let you be negative or down in the dumps. They're going to just, you know, pick you up when you're down, because we all go through that. We all have those moments. But to have that relationship and to move forward, and to know that it was with someone who saw you from the very, very beginning. I mean, those are relationships that you carry on forever.
Yeah, that's beautiful. As you navigate military life, there are always sudden changes. So how long are you guys there? You're going to move again, or are you guys retiring there?
No. So Daniel was at from West Point, he came to White Sands. So we were at White Sands for 3 years. We live in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And he just got stationed at Fort Bliss, which is in El Paso, and it's 45 minutes from here. So we didn't have to move our family. He just commutes 15 minutes longer to El Paso. So he does all the operations research for 1AD. So he's over there doing great things and researching awesome things. I was like, I wish I could be doing your job right now, but
he's probably like, I wish I could do this job.
Oh, he's like, I wish I could do your job. And I was like, you know what? Let's switch. Let's like
see how that goes.
You know, so, but no, we're not going to be moving our family, which I'm super, super, you know, grateful for. And again, just having a very supportive spouse who's like in it with me, you know? So, I always tell him, like, I have, you know, it's a countdown, it's a calendar, it's on my phone, and he's got 3.5 more years. And I'm like, I have 3.5 years to be like a solid millionaire, so that when you get out, you don't have to do anything, like just help me and you know, be with the kids. And he's like, you know, I hit the jackpot.
He sure did. I mean, it all started with him. I think like when you have that clarity and support from the beginning, that really provides you a path and a clearing for you to grow and see potential and, you know, really get through those hard times. So when they happen and you have things that are popping up and you lose momentum, you always remember why you started. You remember that you've been through other situations. You remember those things to kind of get you through. So he definitely is part of that really pivotal journey for you. And I love that. And all of our spouses, you know, we have military members who are supporting us every day, and they see the up and the down, the happy, the sad, you know, waiting for money, getting money, spending money, you know, the hours and hours you learning to build a business. It is really just, it is a lot. And so I know that our military members out there, if you're listening, we love you guys for it. And thank you for your patience as we try to figure out where we stand in this military journey as we support you on your journey. Where is my voice? Where am I being seen? What's making me move through the world and bring me joy while I help you, you know what I mean, and support you. So I think that's really cool. One of the other things that you mentioned earlier that you talked about was getting into these stores. So many spouses have great products, and they are always trying to learn, like, how do you get into the stores? Tell us about getting into Sephora and JCPenney's and all of these things. Like, share with us, like, some of that distribution work. How does that process look?
Yeah, so for me, I was really, really lucky. I've always been like a very like, you know, just I love to connect and I love to network with different people. And I always tell people, you know, unfortunately, it's not about what you know about, but it's who you know. Like, that's exactly what it is. And, you know, sometimes it's a messed up kind of, you know, construct of how things work, but really it is about who you know. And so for me, I was just really lucky to be put in the room with this amazing founder and CEO who is Nikeo Grieco. She's a co-founder and CEO of Thirteenlune. And she was just starting her e-com business, Thirteenlune Online. And we happened to be in a cohort together. Cohorts are so cool. There are so many cohorts.
Tell them.
Yeah, cohorts are so cool. Not just because of like the information that you share, but it's because of the people that you get to meet. And you know, wherever you are in your journey, they're somewhere else in their journey. And we finished that cohort. It was a 6-month accelerator, and we kind of just learned like different aspects of business that you don't normally know or learn about, like there's tax law, or it's, you know, getting information about, you know, distribution and warehousing and manufacturing. So I was in that cohort with her, and I did a pitch right on the last day. They pick, you know, 5 people out of, you know, 100. And I was so lucky. Like, I feel so blessed. Not even lucky. My grandma would be upset if I said lucky.
Yeah.
I'm so blessed that, you know, I was chosen as one of the 5. And after we got off the call, she sent me a DM on my Instagram, and she was like, girl, you have to be in Thirteenlune e-com online. And I was like, yeah, whatever you need from me, like, let me know. And she's like, it's just consignment. She's like, that's how we're doing it right now. But if you want to do like consignment, like, I was like, absolutely, like, I'll do consignment for you. Like, don't even worry about it. But I didn't know that Nikeo was in talks with JCPenney. At that time, it wasn't known that Sephora was leaving JCPenney and they were going to go into all of the Kohl's stores. So JCPenney was going to be left with no beauty counter. And so they could either partner with Ulta or somebody else, or they could build their own beauty counter. But here comes Nikeo Grieco from Thirteenlune, like, hey, I've got an e-com site, and I've got, you know, 100 Black and brown founders, and then 20 ally brands that aren't Black and brown founded. that we could go into the JCPenney stores. And so I didn't know about that. I was just selling on her e-com. She called me one day and she's like, hey, are you sitting down? And I was like, no. I was like, no. She's like, how would you like to be in 610 JCPenney stores? And I was like, speechless. I actually laid on the floor and cried because I didn't know if I was ready.
Yeah.
One of the biggest feelings, that fear that comes over you, is debilitating. Like, can I do this? Like, do I have the money? Do I have the support? Do I have the product? Do I have, the capability? Me, I'm first generation, college person to go to college in my family. I'm, all of these different things, and I'm
running through your head, like, as it's
right.
Yeah.
Am I capable of doing this? And I remember I hung up the phone with Nikeo and I called Daniel. I always call Daniel right after. And I said to him, I just got the wildest call, and it could change like our lives, like, dramatically. And he's like, are you okay? Like, are you, he thought I was sick or something. I'm like, no, like,
to start the call. Like,
right. I'm like, you might be sick, but not that kind of sick. Like, so I was just like, do you think that we have the capability of being in 610 JCPenney stores? And he was like, what? And, just putting together a list and the ideas and all of the things that we would have needed. We didn't have SKUs on our packages or anything at that time. We didn't have anything. We didn't have, I didn't even know where you got a SKU from. It was just kind of funny, like, to know, like, to figure out that you had to have all of these things set in place. And so it was just it's still an experience. And I will tell you, my really good girlfriend and I were having a conversation the other day, and I said, you got to be just like a little bit unhinged to just like,
I got enough for 610 stores.
Yeah, like, you just a little bit, like be for real, like, for a moment. You just got to be just a little bit, and you just got to go for it, man. Yeah. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? The worst thing that could happen is that you fail. But you probably, from a statistic point of view, will not fail at something that you put all of your heart and dedication to. And then when you start putting your kids' college funds into this, and, your personal money, because no one will finance you, that gives you like a whole different kind of drive. Like, this cannot fail, and it won't, and it's about the cohorts and the community and the people that you surround yourself with, and you pull from your community. I needed, somebody who studied international law. I needed somebody who knew about, marketing and distributing into different countries. We're in the US right now, but next year you'll see us going into other countries. The product packaging has to be different. The information is different. Formulations, you can't use certain formulations in one country that you can in another. FDA certificates. If you say you're vegan and cruelty free, you better be vegan and cruelty free. You're gonna get sued.
Oh my gosh.
Just a whole kind of different world that you don't know, and it's just like, I'm just a small town girl from Arizona. And it's like, no, you're a small town girl from Arizona, but you put your whole life and all of, everything that you had with your spouse and your children into this. And now it's, it is what it is.
Wow. Well, I can't wait to see and continue to follow you on this journey. And I'm excited to kind of be a part of it in some way, learning your story and sharing it with the world. If there's one tip that you have for military spouses trying to get into the beauty industry or product
There's this program or this website online. It's called Range Me. Range Me is the hub of where all the brands go. It's a little bit pricey. It's like $900. Typically it's like $1,500, but right now they have like a special. It's $900 and it's called Range Me. And this is where all of the mega brands and like all of the big companies like Walmart, Ulta, Target, CVS, you know, everyone goes on there and they search for products to put into their store.
Oh, wow.
It's called Range Me. I recommend if anyone has a product that they would like to see go into a store, that you go onto the Range Me website, sign yourself up, invest in your business, sign up, pay the funds, like do that. There's also another one called Fair. Fair.com is a place where you can sign up also if you have a product or something that you want to use. You pretty much upload like a catalog of all the things that you have and what they cost and where they're made. And then you put a price on it. So they usually buy like wholesale. I would recommend that. And then if you have like a product ready to go in store and you know that it's going to be a success and you have the capacity to fulfill in big box stores, Target has this amazing program called the Target Accelerator. The Target Accelerator is an amazing program. I would apply for that. If you have skincare or anything like that, Prados Beauty also has a cohort. I was in that cohort. I was in the first class that they ever had. It's an ongoing cohort now. Every year they pick a new class. So it's just being informed about all of these opportunities out there and different places that you can go to plug yourself in. And then AFEES actually buys from Range Me. So you have to have a Range Me profile, and then you email AFEES and you're like, hey, I'm a milspouse. I have a product. It's in Range Me. It's ready to go in store. You might be seeing Prados and AFEES next year.
Wow, that's exciting. Yeah. Tell us where we can find you and how we can support you.
Yeah, so you can go to my website at pradosbeauty.com. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and all the socials. And then you can go to 610 JCPenney locations. They have a limited amount of our SKUs. I think they have like 30 of our SKUs in these stores. But for a full range of product, you can just go on our website. We have free shipping in the U.S. and, of course, to APOs, like they ship for free. So if you're a spouse that's overseas right now, we send mail to APOs all the time. And if you're ever passing through Las Cruces, come to our store. We have a brick and mortar here in front of our warehouse.
Wow.
And shop in person.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me today amongst your ever evolving and growing makeup dynasty. Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing your story, being transparent. And, this is going to change somebody's life, just you sharing your story and inspiring our military spouse community to keep trailblazing and keep making their dreams come true. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.